We just finished with our introductions, and we like to have our calls recorded, and we post those to our YouTube afterwards. So just so you are aware of that. So I'm actually going to share just a brief quote to just bring us all into the space here after doing our introductions. I wanted to share this quote. It's one of the ones that is definitely a guiding force for the work that I do. And it's from a woman named Bell Hooks. If you're not familiar with her, she's an amazing writer. And so the quote is, "Love heals. We go forward with the fresh insight that the past can no longer hurt us. Mindful remembering lets us put the broken bits and pieces of our hearts together again. And that is the way that healing begins." Um, so, with that, the remembrance component of our conversation tonight, when we began planning this, we had talked with an amazing woman. Her name is Miss Clarine Menzies, and I was blessed to know her via my friend Naima. And she passed away on March 11th at her home in Huron. She and Nadifa had many amazing projects and work that they did together. And one of those was called Sisters Need a Place, being able to provide a place for people in need. And her philanthropy with nonprofits was something that spanned across the years and across so many people. She left a legacy that touches so many lives. And yeah, I can, we can hear her voice from one of the last calls that we had, just advocating for the rights of all people, truly. I definitely recommend just Googling her and looking up the amazing things that she did. And I'm just really grateful for everyone just to hold that space and to remember Miss Clarine.
She was an amazing woman all the way to the end. Clarine was a Muslim for well over 40 years, and her legacy stems from before Katrina. She was with Islamic Relief and did a lot of things with Islamic Relief with Katrina and before. Um, and she upheld the understanding within Islam that if one hurts, we all hurt. And she did some amazing things to make sure that we all got as good as we could get for whenever we were doing. So now I got to stop.
Thank you, Miss
Very
Naima.
dear friend.
Before I start to introduce our panelists, I did just want to share for folks who may not be aware that this conversation that we're holding tonight um, around the Muslim faith actually is happening during a holy month of Ramadan, where Muslims across the world fast during daylight hours, take time for prayer, and so that means the between um, sun up and sundown, um, many Muslims don't eat or drink anything. And so I'm very grateful for our speakers being here tonight and sharing with us as we have these conversations. I will start with Miss Naima's introduction. She is Naima saying she is a 72 years young, married mother of two and grandmother. She is the first African American Muslim woman in the state of South Dakota to hold a seat as a city council person twice, and is currently a member of the Brookings Human Rights Committee. And we also have Nadifa Muhammad with us, and she will go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadifa Mohammed. I am 24 years young. Although Miss Naima gave me a great compliment earlier and say that I look 12, so I would take any age younger than 24. I was originally born in Chad, but I grew up in Cameroon. My family and I came to South Dakota in December 2010 as refugees from Chad. So we came straight from Chad to South Dakota, and then I've been here ever since. I am currently still in college. I graduate in a few weeks, so I'm very excited about that and very nervous. I am majoring in sociology with 3 different minors: a minor in in human services, another minor in social leadership and management of nonprofit, and my last minor in French studies. I lose breath every time I say that. And yeah, so I'm very excited to kind of expand you guys' knowledge on what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So we've got a couple of guiding questions. I know a lot of times the conversations can happen really organically, but we do like to have just a little bit of framework. So we'll go ahead and start with those questions. And I think Zach is going to go ahead and ask the first one.
Hey, how's
Hotep.
it going? Hotep. Assalamu alaikum. So the first question I wanted to jump into was what was your relationship with religion growing up, and is it different now? And I want to start with Naeem.
Oh, well, I at 4, my folks moved me from Chicago to St. Paul, Minnesota, and I was at a Baptist church, and I had a brand new dress, and I loved it, and I would wash it, and then I wear something else, I wash it, and these girls were, "You wore that last week, didn't you?" My mom says, "Nope, out of there." So we went to the Lutheran church down the road. And this was a special Lutheran church because it was a Swedish Lutheran church. Yeah, sure, you betcha. So I became a Lutheran, and I almost got kicked out of the faith because, well, I asked questions at the camp because remember, I'm 72 and there was the war. And so war, good God, what is it good for? Well, my pastor couldn't answer that and he got mad at me, but that's okay, I forgive him. So the next thing that happened is roots. And roots, when Kunta Kinte was held up, and it was, there is not, behold, the only thing greater than yourself. I always had a burning question about that. And then they said, Assalamu alaikum. Well, I went years later and looked at that and said, ooh, there must be something there. So in 1998, my mother told me that if I was interested in Islam, because somebody had told me that in Islam, the woman, when she helps her husband, it's called charity, because my money is my money. I would, and at the end of Ramadan, I would pay my, I would pay on my money. But anyway, that's something else. But anyway, all I heard was my money was my money and his money was my money. And I was interested. My mom said, well, let me hook you up with this sister who explained to me what Islam was about. I learned about everything in Islam that I had held dear. We are one with the planet. When you see something, say something, we are all one. And I used to wear things. My mom told me one time, she said, you know what? I think your kafir, your designer is Omar the tent maker. I said, ma'am? She said, why do you wear all those loose things? I said, because I'm cool. Look at them. They're beautiful. That was the first thing I thought of when I became a Muslim. I said, in front, this is true. I sat in front of the mirror and I looked and I said, Allah, am I supposed to look this good? If it's okay with you, I'll keep on. And here I am today. This is 2000. This is 2021. And my upbringing in Islam has led me to where I am in South Dakota with a husband who is absolutely fabulous. and surrounded by people who are accepting of who I am, because I accept the fact that God is, and what they're doing and what they're espousing when they say God is, we are all one. So was that short enough for you?
That was perfect. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Now, Nadifa, what was your relationship with religion growing up, and is it different now?
So I've always been a Muslim since day one. It's definitely different now because back home I was surrounded around mainly Muslims, so the experience was very different. I never felt lonely. I never knew about other religion as much. I was surrounded by half Muslim, half Christian, and nobody made a big deal about that. It wasn't like, oh, we were divided. I never even knew that, there was a huge thing like division, like honestly, until I came to the US. So growing up back home as Muslim is always fun. This is very fun, especially during Ramadan. You're surrounded by all your family members. We ate together, prayed together. We were always looking forward to Eid as a celebration after Ramadan. But now in the US, my family, all of them are back home, and those that I have here, like my siblings and my parents, it's hard for us to get together down and eat because everybody has to work. It's kind of difficult to have the same schedule. So my first when I first came here, I was 15 and I went to Axel Park. And that's when it really hit me that I am a Muslim, honestly, that I am different and that people have issue with my religion. Never knew, people hated Islam. And when I do say that, some people are like, well, you do not know about 9/11? No, because back home, we weren't really, we didn't have the privilege, like, we didn't have no internet, we didn't really know what was going on outside of the our own little bubble. So I never knew 9/11 happened. I never knew that racism was even a thing until I really came to the US. So when I first came, I didn't wear my hijab. I went to Axel Park with no hijab because of that fear. First, I was afraid to really stand out. Like, I was very aware that I was Black and I was the only Black child, like in my classroom, or not the only one, but the only Muslim. So I didn't want to draw too much attention because my skin is already doing that for me. So I was not about to draw more attention than that. So, and then I started to get bullied. I first started to get bullied, not by people from different religions, by my own religion, because some Muslim who knew that I was a Muslim and now wearing a hijab were very surprised. They were like, why aren't you not wearing your hijab? That's haram, and haram means it's forbidden, it's wrong. And so they were making me feel bad for now wearing a hijab. So then, I started wearing my hijab, and then other people started to get bullied because now I'm wearing my hijab, right? So you can never please anyone. But so that's where I really started to realize that I'm very different, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. If I take off my hijab, I'm still Black. I'm still gonna deal with it, I'm still gonna deal with the racism, the hate. And so ever since I have my hijab, I am unapologetically Black and Muslim, and so I'm wrong with it. At this point, I don't really care about what anybody thinks. I don't care if you don't like my scarf, don't look my direction. You have any other directions to look at, and so that's the mentality that I run with. So it's a lot easier now because the older I'm getting, the more F's I can really give about what anybody has to think. But even being young, I still have to battle with it, because now I don't have a lot of Muslim friends. Most of my friends are Christian or don't believe in religion. So sometimes when I hang out around them, I kind of feel like the outsider. I feel very different. I feel like I don't really fit in, and I just don't feel really welcome. And then when I realized that I wasn't really feeling welcome in my circle, I had to really change my friends, because I realized that they weren't really making me feel welcome. I was kind of getting like, why do you dress that way? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? You know, and if you know me, I am into fashion, and mainly modest fashion. So I believe in being modest, not because my religion forces me to, because, you know, I feel most beautiful when I'm modest. And so now, honestly, I the experience is not as bad now, because I feel like the more education people are getting about Islam, and the more open-minded people are becoming, the experience is becoming, I'm getting a more positive experience now, because, you know, people like you are willing to sit down and kind of hear other people's perspective and experiences on these type of issues. And so it makes it easier when people are willing to be open-minded and hear other people. So my experience, it's not bad. You know, I've never had somebody, you know, rip off my hijab. It wasn't a hijab, I was wearing a hat. And then one of my Christian friends thought that it was funny to take off my hat. And, you know, they didn't do that unintentionally, intentionally, but it was still very like an offensive thing to do. So I had to kind of talk to them about it, and ever since they understood, and they have never done that. So if I don't willingly share, you know, open my hair, like, you know, just like don't take off my scarf trying to find out, you know, like if I'm bald or not, because a lot of people think that, you know, Muslim women who cover their hair, that they're bald. So but yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you sharing that. It's very powerful, just the different backgrounds too, and how the stories are different, but also having that common thread through them. So thank you. I'm really grateful for that. So the next question, we sort of covered it a little bit. I think it came up with both of your answering, but feel free to expand a little bit on how race and or racism has impacted your life as a child and as an adult.
Okay, Naima, do you want me to go ahead? Or you?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, as I mentioned before, like I honestly didn't know that racism even existed until I came to the US. So after I realized that you know, being Black and being a Muslim is a big thing here, it was very hard. I sort of hated everything about myself. I used to ask God, like, why, you know, like, why this, why that, and I hated being in the United States. When we first found out that we were approved and we were coming to the United States, it was an amazing news. You know, we were excited, and we actually thought we were going to be billionaires as soon as we landed in the United States. So you can imagine that that was such a disappointing, reaction. I went from dreaming of being a billionaire to basically being this kid who's being bullied in school for being different. And back home, when we see white people, we were so like, you know, like basically surprised, and not in a bad way, but like we were always so curious, you know, like how like we've never seen somebody from this race, and we would treat them with respect. But here it was completely different. Like, why am I being hated? So I used to sit there and have conversations with myself, like, you know, like I am never, like I didn't have no conversation with God about what skin tone I wanted to be in. I was, you know, and also blessed to be born in this religion, but like, why? So it really affected me at first, and I became this very angry and bitter child. And that's when mental health really started messing with me, honestly. And I was shut down from people. I am a social butterfly. I love to talk to people. And so at that point, I was not interested in talking to human beings, and I hated going to school. I just, you know, learning English was even difficult. Learning the American culture was also another thing. So, and then having to deal with that was very hard. So after being in high school and realizing that, you know, being angry and staying away from people was not really helping, I decided to kind of switch that mindset. I said, well, I'm going to continue being myself. And those who want to be around and those who want to know about why I'm so different, and those who want to be in my life would stay. And those who are not are, more than welcome to take the first exit that they see. So that really helped me as mentally. And it helped me also allow positive people and open-minded people in my life. So now I am an activist. I try my best to educate people who want to be educated on like topic on race, relation, Islam, or anything like that. And one of my closest friends are non-Muslims, so, and we get along so well. We never sat down and had no debate about religion or what religion is best, which one is not. Until this day, I have never, ever, and God is my witness, sat there and said, well, if nobody is a Muslim, they're gonna go to hell. I don't know why. I've never sat there and thought about anyone who's not a Muslim is gonna go to hell. I was never trained that way in my family. And then also, when people think that like the way I dress is because I'm being forced by my parent or because of religion is like forcing me or anything like that. No, I wake up in the morning, I pick and choose what I want to wear, proudly leave the house, feeling good on what I have on. So it's let me see. Yeah, like it's not what people think about Islam, that we're being oppressed and anything like that. Yes, some might have a different experience than I do, and I know some absolutely do have a different experience. But for me, and coming from the family that I come from, it's different. Like yeah, my mom and my dad are very different. Like my mom is more like, like do you type of thing, like, and my dad is like, no, like he's a little bit strict. But although like they've never pointed a gun in my head and said you have to wear a hijab, it's something that I really love. When I wear a hijab, I feel powerful, I feel empowered. I feel like a boss. Like I feel like you cannot tell me anything when I have my hijab. But wait until I have my heels on, then it's end game. Like it's on top, so when I have my heels on and I have my hijab, you should be worried, because you should be very afraid, because confidence is as high as it can be, self-esteem is as high as it can be. So that's a powerful thing about hijab that people don't really understand, and it's a risk that you're taking, especially being in South Dakota, where there's a lot of people who never met a Muslim, and there's a lot of anti, like there's Islamophobia, like all over the place. It's a risky thing to do, but because of it makes me feel so powerful. It honestly, it's a risk that I would take every single day. So, and when I don't have my hijab, there are some days you're gonna find me with not my hijab or anything like that. When I don't have it, I don't feel good. I don't feel myself, and so hijab is very powerful. I'm not saying go and put on a hijab, because it might not work for you, but it's a power that I, that the hijab gave me. So, but yeah, so I'm gonna shut up and let Sister Naima take over.
That the understanding of hijab, yeah, this this is true. When I became a Muslim, I was told that, because I became a Muslim later, I was told, well, when I became that age, that I didn't have to cover because I was old. I said, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, what? And he repeated it. And I said, oh, you don't know me very well. No, I need to cover. As a matter of fact, I need to cover more. The older I get, the better I get. During 9/11, I was a fully covered Muslima. I advocated for a driver's license wearing a niqab. well, they knew me. They saw me coming and go, oh, let's go get a screen. Let's look at the person's face. And then this was a woman. And then we'll go ahead and take the picture. There are sisters today that still have their niqab driver's license. Now, you can't do that now in Minnesota, but we was rolling. And during 9/11, I was hired as a driver, a school bus driver. And the first and only time ever in my neighborhood, I was told to go back to Africa. And I looked at this little boy. No, he said, you go back home. You go back where you came from. I said, I'm not going back to Chicago. We left there, not going back. No, you go back to Africa. I said, boy, you know what? And then he's looking at me. Oh, Miss Naima. Oh, okay. But the whole idea of becoming a Muslim and then having 9/11 happen, there was it was a watershed moment for me, because being an African American, being now a Muslim, and there were so many Muslims in Minnesota that had no idea until they said, here's what you do. Every state elect an imam, and all of you go over there and get that taken care of. And it was on the news, and I said, oh, here we go. And Sister Clarine and I talked to people about what they could expect. We had 2 people that were killed in Minnesota. There were women that were beat up. There were sisters that were beat up. And we went to the north side and held, well, for the lack of a better word, self-defense training. And there were a lot of things that were going on at that time. And I'm still a niqabi, and it was accepted by the school, by the bus company, so on and so forth. And people were running around with their, with their driver's license. The whole idea of being a Muslim after having been, well, not after having been, while being Black, was a whole nother thing to a lot of people, because there were people who learned the Quran. It's called Hafiz Quran. You know the entire Quran. During Ramadan is Tarawih. You study the Quran, and you learn from start to finish. And I was looking at, where is all this stuff that they're talking about that we believe? Because I don't see it in the Quran. There's none of this, and people were talking about Sharia law and this and that and the other. It was different. And the difference that I saw led Clarine and I to do some more things, which is Sisters Need a Place. And we were on call to speak and to just help out wherever we could. And like little sis, you don't mind me calling you little sis, do you? Being available and open to people asking questions is not something that a lot of people do that you know of. But there are a lot of sisters and brothers that talk to people, not with the proselytizing, but when people ask, there are more people that I know that are going to share Islam so the people can understand. It's, it's not the boogeyman kind of thing. It's a very, very excellent way to live. What was the question?
And like one thing that I would like to quickly add to this is, like when when Sister Naima mentioned about the struggle of basically being Black and Muslim in the United States, it's, me and Silly also quickly talked about this 2 weeks ago, is that when something happened, when we hear that, there's shooting, there's stuff, when we hear about the shooting or anything like that, like we're praying that, first of all, it's not a Black person, and that it's not a Muslim, okay? Because we, for a fact, know that if it's Black, if it's Muslim, that we're gonna have to go to this, entire cycle of, dealing with this. Like we are going to get your attention, and people are going to say this, people are going to say that. And sometimes for me, I like to even like not even be on social media, because I don't like to read what people have to say. Oh, like all these Black people are this. It's one person, but all of a sudden we're all these Black people. And I'm like, I'm in South Dakota. I was not in California. I had no idea what the fool was doing, you know, like, and no, like it's why am I being blamed for what this Black Muslim guy went and did at the shop? You know, me and him he didn't get my approval, you know, like he did this on his own. And so when things like that happen, we don't really get the chance to grieve. We would also like to grieve those who died, you know, but we don't have the chance to really sit there and be like, oh, feel bad for the family, you know, who were hurt during this attack. So if instead we're worried about the attack that we are gonna get because of what one Black person or one Muslim went and did. Okay, so it's always a challenge every time I hear something in the news, is, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, it's a Muslim. And sometimes we get messages from our brothers in the community, and, you know, they would say, hey, you know, there was an attack that happened in Chicago today, and it's a Muslim. Please be careful, because as a Muslim woman, we basically represent Islam. You know, it's easy to know that
you can recognize us.
Yeah, to recognize us because we wear the hijab, you know. So it's very unfortunate that that's what, you know, like this is what's, you know, going on, or just what happens every time. But that, yeah, that's something that I quickly wanted to point out as well.
And I can add to that also something that I also did and am still doing. I'm a field representative, and I did the census and worked with another company doing field representation, where you go and you knock on somebody's door, you call someone, this, that, and the other. But every year when 9/11 came around, I didn't go the day before to Brookings or any place. I didn't go the day of 9/11 nor the day after, because I knew what was going to happen. And like Sister says, when something happened, it doesn't matter where it happened. You wake up, and there were days that I knew that something was brewing, whether it was a riot or something happened. The one that was really something was when the Muslim person killed all those people at the fort, and people lost their damn mind. And I can understand that, because there's grief and whatnot. I was prepared for it. I got a shock, I gotta tell you. I went to Walmart, and people are mean mugging. And I'm thinking, I'm protected. Hello, holla. And then I go to Hy-Vee, and in Hy-Vee, I kid you not, almost everybody that came out had this smile. I see you. I see you. We're okay. I see you. And boy, I tell you, it was when I really, really, really think about the first time that happened, I will have tears. I will have tears, because it meant so much. That's how deep all of this happens. And then going on further, being a Muslim, being Black, and acknowledging other people of color, oh, that's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. And as Muslims, we are supposed to acknowledge everyone. We are all family. When one of the first things that I got fussed at by an imam, I said, why aren't we celebrating Earth Day? You know, we should be, why aren't we recycling this, that, and the other? Well, this is not us. I said, we're Muslims, aren't we? This is not what we do. Yes, it's, nah, 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 nah. And Yusuf Islam said, no, 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 no. So this, you know, it's a constant pulling. It's a pulling on my heart, because I hope my husband is thinking everything is okay, because I have a man that realizes that if I'm out there and somebody gets mad because of how I look, you know, I posted on my page one time, I'm an equal opportunity hater. You can hate me because I'm Black. You can hate me because I'm Muslim. My husband happens to be Dutch. A lot of people that are Black say, why did you marry a Dutch guy? You know, they brought us over here. I said, that man has a license and he wasn't born then. So please back up. You know, it does hurt us. You know, no soft soaping it. It does hurt us.
It does. And some of the comments that I get, you know, during those times, like you said earlier, like go back to your country and stuff like that, you know. And for me, since I was born in Africa, like I'm not mad when you tell me to go back to my country, but I'm gonna check you, you know. Like my response is always like, hey, like at least I know where I come from. You know, I was born in West Africa.
Hello.
I can or I can go to Cameroon. But the truth is, do you really know where you come from? Because if today, you know, Native Americans take over and they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to take over. All of you guys need to get out of this country. Where are you going to go? I know I'm going to get me a one-way ticket to either Cameroon or Chad. Anywhere in Africa, they're going to welcome me. Where exactly are you going to go? So instead of trying to focus on, you know, me and oh, you need to go back where you come from. Study your history, because we both know we don't belong here, okay? So when I get those comments, I used to, as a kid, you know, get very upset. Like, how dare you tell me where you know, where that I should go back to my country? And I try to give them a little history. If the United States did not go to my country and mess it up, me and you wouldn't even be speaking right now, okay? Because the United States went to my country and messed things up. Okay, that's why I'm here. So don't tell me I should be happy and grateful that I'm in the United States. No. I am here because of the United States, okay? So these are the comments and the, like, I try, you know, instead of being angry, educate people on that, you know? And so it's those comments don't really bother me anymore, but it does bother, like, me when I hear, like, my siblings say, or somebody said this to me, like, I just want to go and, like, punch them, you know? But, and also my siblings, every single one of them, especially the females, like they're very, you know, outspoken, like they stand up for themselves. They're very educated. So it makes me so proud when I see, you know, especially young Muslim, you know, female also stand up for themselves. But, you know, it's not something that I really want them to do. But, you know, like, why do they have to, you know, deal with that? But the truth is, they will, you know, and for a long time.
And you know, the thing that I ended up doing to stop that, because I have stopped people in their tracks, as you can tell, I'm so shy. And I just say, well, you know, you want me to go back to Africa. There was the Back to Africa movement, the Black Star Line. Let me not go. So there is one thing about that you need to know. I can possibly, because of Ancestry.com, figure out where I came from. So I'm prepared. Well, what are you prepared for? I said, if all the Native folks and everybody else gets together and y'all get kicked out, I know where I'm going. And then they look at me, and then you know, then I'm an uppity whatever. But you know, it's a fail safe for me. It's a fail safe mechanism to be able to let people know what time it is. And it's just so funny that this young sister is doing the same doggone thing. We are one.
I love it. Thank you. So it looks like we had Celia join us. Celia, do you want to introduce yourself, or I can read?
Hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't know where to interject or how to come. But sorry, I'm late. Naps are dangerous during Ramadan. I set like multiple alarms, but slept through all of them. And I had some technical issues getting in as well. But I wanted to introduce myself to those of you who may not know me. My name is Celia Ali. And yeah, I grew up here in Sioux Falls, originally from Ethiopia, but I've been here for about almost 14 years now. So Sioux Falls has been home. I know people always give me like double looks when I say, oh, I'm from Sioux Falls. I always joke that like South Dakota should pay me because I'm out here being an ambassador. But yeah, so it's nice to meet all of you. And yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, we've got a couple more questions. Just a time check too. If you aren't already on our email list, we send out information about events, things that are going on in our community. If you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, but you can also put your email into the chat and we'll get you on the mailing list if you're not there already. We've got 2 more questions and about 10 minutes until the hour. We do go over a little bit sometimes, but I think we're going to be a little bit more strict with time tonight. So Zach, do you want to go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah, but before I jump into it real fast, if it's possible, Celia, what was your relationship with religion growing up? And is it any different now? And also, how has race or racism impacted your life as a child and as an adult?
So in terms of like religion and growing up, so I grew up, I was born in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is very diverse religiously. So I grew up around different religions. And so I grew up around a lot of Christians, like Orthodox Christians, Protestants, and Muslims. The area of Ethiopia that I was from was mostly Muslims though, and we did have some non-Muslims. But my family has a long history of being educators of Islam. So this is actually a legacy that I've only kind of learned about a while ago, that it was like a full thing. So my grandpa moved to the area of Ethiopia that he settled, and he built the first mosque in that area, and like taught Islam to the population. So that's something I didn't really know about for a long time. So I had that, and I had religious education, of course, as do many young Muslim children, along with other school. So I have the fun thing of saying, oh, I can like read Arabic, and like know very few words, but I don't speak the language, unfortunately. So yeah, I had that, and I feel like I got to, I mean, when I was in Ethiopia, it wasn't something I actively thought about, just because I was around a lot of other Muslims, and the part of Ethiopia I lived was mostly Muslims. And so I think it was coming to the US and being different. And so I wore the hijab. I mean, when I was a kid in Ethiopia, it was just kind of a thing that I wore on and off. And I went to a private Islamic school. So, you know, wearing the hijab was part of the uniform. And so, but I was a kid, and just, it wasn't something that I like actively thought about. And so I came here, I just started wearing it, and wore skirts. And so that was like a big, I mean, I felt like I stood out. And there was moments in my life I was like, oh, would it just be easier, because I don't really want to, I want to be like everyone else. Like, I don't want to stand out and just be this different person. And unfortunately for myself, I wasn't as outspoken as Nadifa, or I wish I had all of your spunk, Naima, and just I've been as outspoken, but I just was like, okay, I'm here. I just want to get through. And so I wouldn't say I faced any like drastic bullying, but I mean, it was like, I did feel like just being different, like put me kind of like in a, you know, in a box. And just the ways that I was, and just being like a shy person in general, and not knowing my place, I guess, in the world at the time. And so, yeah, I feel like it was kind of like a shock, in that it made me this like different person. But I think also it showed me, I think being in this country like showed me the different Muslims. Like I grew up, so when we came here, my dad was looked for like where we could get Islamic education. We went through a lot of different madrasas, or Islamic schools. And so we had one where like a white convert and his wife, I believe she was from Malaysia, taught us. And so that was interesting. So just getting like different images of Muslims, and I think the diversity, and just, I mean, it made me feel like part of a wider, larger community. And I think that's something that could have only happened here, because I mean, where I was from, the other Muslims like looked like me for the most part, even though Ethiopia was diverse, and I mean, people spoke different languages and were different ethnic groups, but most of them generally looked like myself. And so it didn't feel, and a lot of people would, you know, stick to their communities. And I mean, that happens here as well, where like in bigger cities, I mean, here it's small enough, but people do tend to segregate themselves, and there's a Somali mosque, an Oromo mosque, or like an Arab and a Desi one. and yeah, sorry, that was, I feel like, a long answer to your question.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So the next question was for Naima, Nadifa, Salia. Do you see an intersection of your relationship with religion in your experience with race, specifically the stereotypes and or biases you may have faced?
I think definitely for myself, like people don't really know what to do with me, I feel like, because they've always felt like, okay, you're a Black girl, you're supposed to be like loud, you know, and like entertaining and all of this, but then they see me and they're like, okay, so I guess they don't really know what box to put me in. And I feel like with Muslim women as well, there is a stereotype of being like subservient and just, you know, people expect us to be this oppressed beings. I feel like especially in the West, that's a big trope of like wanting to liberate the Muslim women and like, I don't unveil us and all of that. And just all of just different, I think, things that people think, you know, think they know about us. So I think that definitely has been like, okay, how do I draw this line? Like I'm not, I don't fit into any of these things that people think like I should be. And so I think just finding my place and in my interactions with people, just like in the workplace or just in my personal life as well. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I can definitely, I mean, I don't want to repeat anything that Celia said. Sometimes I feel like, you know, we're twins, you know, like anything I want to say, just, she just said. So, but yeah, like she said, I honestly sometimes don't even, you know, I feel like people don't know what to do with me, you know what I mean? Like, but it's, you know, like I shared earlier, like some of the, you know, misconception and like the stereotype that people always feel like we're being oppressed and like, you know, like she said, you know, people always feel like they gotta fight for me because they feel like I'm being oppressed and like I don't get to choose what I want to do, and like I'm in this religion because, you know, because I grew up in it and because I'm being forced. Like I honestly, I don't know what else to add to this than what Celia already added. So I think she put it out very nicely, worded very nicely. So that's,
with me, it is more of a continuation, because growing up breathing while Black and then having the nerve, the audacity to become a African American Muslim had a lot of people, they didn't know where to put me either. Some of them wanted to put me under a bus. I said, no, I drive one, thank you very much. But there's an intersectionality that is different with folks that grew up as Muslim, the folks that grew up Muslim outside of the United States, because what the young ladies are saying, everybody looked like them. And if you were to have met Clarine on here, she's a redhead, and she's fiery like a redhead, or was fiery like a redhead. So there's the different intersecting that happens as an American, African American Muslim female than what the little sisters have gone through. And I had only one person ask me if I needed help getting out of the religion. And I just looked at her and I said, you know, I fought too hard to get here. I got a good old man. No. No. And so she left me alone, and we talked, and I helped her understand a little bit more. And then, you know, that was it. Every day is a different day, but there is a very definite difference between being born into Islam in this country and outside of this country. But you know what? It's all coming together. It really is all coming together. And what is really something, and this is maybe for another conversation, when I was talking about Native American folks, there is an intersectionality there too. There is definitely, you know, there is that, and it's been there for a very long time. And people want to act like we're not, you know, no, it's not that way, and so on and so forth. And I just say, y'all is afraid we gonna get together. But the one thing that y'all have to understand is because you did us this way doesn't mean our hearts are going to do you in the same way. And then they look and they go, yeah, I don't believe it. I'm still going to be scared. I'm going to do this. Well, then, you know, go on, hop on off. Go on. But yeah, I think that answered it, maybe.
I think so. I think that's really helpful. And I think Nadifa, it was you who said, you know, and I don't know if you specified, but in my head, at least, the white women who want to unveil that kind of white feminism with the idea that like there's something wrong with you being empowered by, you know, your hijab and that modesty and things like that, and how that's such that negative impact of that kind of bias that for some reason people just aren't even aware of, and just being able to name that and talk about it, and how veiling, you know, that is something that in religions across, you know, that it's something that happens. You know, you think of, you know, Catholic nuns within the Christian religion, you know, a lot of pagan religions, you know, have the veiling, Romani people and things like that. It's very much something where, you know, there's something to it. It's not something, you know, just because people don't understand anymore that kind of negativity. And I think both of you have talked a little bit about this, and I really appreciate the conversation. And I know we're right at 8 o'clock, and we'll go over a little bit. And if you have to jump off, that is totally fine. But the last question that we have is, how do you see religion playing a role in your anti-racism work going forward? What does that look like for you? And if you want to go ahead and answer that, and then we can open up to questions if anybody would be willing to do that.
I mean, for me, in Islam, we're basically like taught to be the voice of the voiceless. You know, we to be advocate and speak out and be there for people, be very helpful, have empathy, and so that's where I get my activism from, you know, and that's how I will be until the day I'm like 6 feet deep. And so every time I feel like giving up, you know, like I remember who I am, and I remember what my religion tells me to do, you know, whether even if it's like, for example, like coming here today, you know, and sharing about my experience in Islam and expanding people's knowledge on what Islam really is and what my experience is. It's part of Islam, you know. I grew up that way. I grew up being told that, hey, if you're going to be a Muslim, you are, you know, going to be an activist, you know. So and because our prophet was that way. So for me, I'm going to continue being the voice of the voiceless. I'm going to continue advocating and being there for people, and and continue being unapologetically I always say that wrong Black and Muslim, and that's what I want people to know, and be that for yourself, you know. And my intention is never, you know, to come and try to like convert anyone, you know. I can say that any of my non-Muslim friends never felt like I wanted to change them into into anybody else. So and that's what I want people to feel. And I always tell my friends, if you ever feel anything different, if you being around me makes you feel less than a human being, and if it makes you feel not wanted, not loved, not heard, you know, and if you don't feel inspired, empowered by, you know, being around me, then I'm failing. I'm truly failing, and I want you to hold me accountable, and I want you to come and tell me that, because that's not who I want to be, and that's not what my religion teaches me to be. So if at any time, you know, you ever see me, whether it's on social media, you know, in real life, like face to face, you catch me sleeping, check me, you know, because Islam does not support that, you know. So that's my answer.
Holla. Can I get an amen up in here? This is, by the way, this is Clarine's cat. One of 6 of her cats. She's a gift to us, and we kind of think that Clarine is in here, but you know, the see, mind of her own. The what she is saying is very, very true. There's stories of the Prophet ﷺ, which is peace and blessings be upon him. There's stories about this Jewish woman who every day would wait for him to be under her window when she'd throw her trash, water, and what out. And he would endure this. And one day she didn't do it. And so he went to check on her. And she couldn't understand why he came to check on her. And he made sure that she understood that is his job, that is his duty. That's why when I say we're supposed to be on the front lines for climate change and, you know, Earth Day and working towards getting whatever. And I feel the same way that she does. People, you know, people try and check me all the time into I don't know, making them feel good, I think is the way that I would put it. There's a lot of times where it's okay to be with me as long as I'm making somebody feel good. And I can tell when they're being uncomfortable, but the what ifs that, you know, that comes, the what if. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, right. And I know in my heart when I, just like Sis said, I'm going to be doing this. I am going to be unapologetically Black, Muslim, child of the universe and the world, embracing of everybody. So this is where I feel it's going to be. This is where I know it's going to be. You know, because there's no, maybe if I got laryngitis, but then I'd be on typing and learning sign language. There's a need to do. Islam teaches you that. You just, you know that. And on top of that, Islam honors every single one of the books that has come through. Every single one of them. And then when people are questioning Islam, you say, well, you know, you have that in the Bible. What do you mean? How do you know about the Bible? Oh, come on now. Ooh, then we have a really good conversation. But anyway, I digress. What was the question?
So I feel like you guys kind of said it all, but yeah, I think for me as well, especially when people want you to abandon parts of your identity, or, you know, or think they don't quite fit, I think it's really important to be unapologetic about all of the parts that make you who you are. And I think something that people don't realize is that the largest, I think, percentage of Muslims in the US is actually our Black people. I don't know if that includes both like African immigrants and like African Americans who are converts, but Islam has been in the US long before. And I think the image usually is, oh, they're, you know, like of Islam is usually like Arabs, so Islam came to like Eastern Africa and parts of East Africa way before it even went to parts of Asia. So that's something that is often neglected. And I feel like Islam generally has a very anti-racist doctrine. And I think that's something that other Muslims also get wrong. And issues about race sometimes get pushed under because as Muslims, you know, the majority, I guess, of Muslims feel that, oh, we have other issues, you know, we as a community are, you know, branded as terrorists, and so we have to focus on that. So, you know, other things kind of get sidetracked or just are brushed under the rug because obviously people don't really want to face the issues that they have as a community. But I think, yeah, I've even felt, you know, that people just even like a lot of internalized, I feel, so, you know, people internalize a lot of that, like, oh, you know, somebody's an Arab, so they're a better Muslim than me, or, you know, that they have a better understanding or are closer. And that's not the case. Like race or does not, you know, say anything about your piety or how close you are to God. And so that Islam is an equalizing force. And so I think that's something that people get wrong, even, you know, fellow Muslims. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we have a lot of work to do as a community in terms of working through just, you know, the different, I guess, segregation within the community, in terms of like mosques and leadership and, you know, who those leadership roles are given to, and who like speaks for Islam and who is seen as more, you know, Muslim in the US. And sometimes it's, you know, those people are the ones that have the mics and they're not passing it on, or they're just hoarding it and not really giving others the opportunity to show themselves and to talk about their experiences of being Muslims. So I really appreciate this conversation. And yeah, it was nice to meet all of you.
Yes. Thank you so much. I just deep gratitude for taking time and sharing with us. I feel like there's like 5 different spin-off conversations we can have from this. This is just a wonderful beginning, and I really appreciate everyone being here, but specifically, you know, our speakers agreeing to be here. So it is almost 8:15, and I know we've got sunset that'll happen soon. So I want to be mindful of if you have to go, that's totally fine. But I did want folks just to remember we do have our book club coming up on the 27th. We are reading Angela Davis's book, Women, Race, and Class. And I think, you know, that's a really great book. Even just coming from this conversation, it touches on a lot of overlapping issues. So feel free to let us know about that. And just, again, email in the chat if you want to be added to our mailing list. If folks are okay with, you know, questions, we can go ahead and do that now. If we have closing words from our speakers too, if you want to do that and then go, that's totally fine as well.
Don't all talk at once.
I have a question. My question specifically, I guess, is around legislation within South Dakota and how we are here in South Dakota are battling a supermajority Republican legislature. So my question, I guess, is about how to have an understanding and a unification and to become allies with communities of color, you know, coming from an Indigenous background, an Indigenous perspective. Within the South Dakota Democratic Party, we started the Ochate Shakoi Caucus, which is formerly known as the Native American Caucus. That's a brand new thing within these last couple months, specifically to arm ourselves and to help educate people in South Dakota and fight these really hateful pieces of legislation that have come down the pipeline within these past couple years. And I know that these legislations that have been introduced don't only impact Native people, but impact, you know, a lot of people of color, trans people, the LGBT community. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come on tonight, is to listen and to learn, because everyone's experience is different. Everyone has different strengths. So I guess how do we unify? How do we learn? How do we educate? And how would we become allies? So that was my question. Thank you.
You already are an ally. Cass Williams had a really great definition of ally this last Juneteenth. She said, yeah, allies are a lot like long division. You got to show your work. And you being here and showing up is showing out. We are not separated. We are one. I was very serious when I said we are one. In attempting to work with League of Women Voters, I'm a member from Aberdeen, and trying to get something started in Brookings. I'm not working as hard as I might. Different things have been keeping me busy. But I would be very interested in working with you to know about your coalition, and you being a starter, being able to, yeah, as they say, each one teach one. You know, I'm 72, ready to learn, because the brain needs to keep active. So I'll put my email in the chat, sister, and you know, let's do this. Ain't nothing to it. Nothing beats a failure but a try. So I'm gonna put that in there right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I mean, just by being present here, like you're already, you know, taking the necessary steps. I feel like, I mean, as humans, I feel like we all value, you know, human connection, and sometimes, you know, people are just, you know, have walls up, and you have to kind of be present and get to know them on a personal level to learn more about them. But I think just engaging in these kind of conversations and you know, continuing to do more. And as a community, I feel like, yeah, there, you know, we have a lot to work through in terms of just unifying and learning more about each other. But yeah, I think this is already the first step. And yeah.
Yes, this is definitely the first step. And I think, you know, even joining South Dakota Voices for Peace, it's also another way to, you know, be in the know of what's going on. I mean, you're already in, you know, but like for those who don't know, like sometimes I don't know what other bills are being introduced, you know, like anti-immigrants, anti-Islamic, you know, bills. And so a great way is to be on the know of all of those bills that, you know, hateful bills that are coming through is through South Dakota Voices for Peace. You know, and Tunisia Islam does a great job by getting people together and going to peer and, you know, fighting against those bills. So sometimes when bills are when hateful bills are being introduced like that, it would be nice to not only have just Muslims go to peer and fight against those bills. It would be awesome to have different people too, because I mean, how powerful would it be for a non-Muslim to come and fight for you know, for a Muslim. So yeah, and I mean, and it shouldn't only stop here, you know. So like, and also make a friend, you know, make a friend from a different race and a different religion. I mean, that's truly the way you would be in the know and know what's really going on and how to help. Sometimes I try to come up with ways and like, how do we prevent even legislatures for coming up with these ridiculous, you know, hateful bills? Because I mean, if we can prevent them from even being introduced, I mean, then we don't have to draft a peer, you know, to fight it. So maybe something that we can all come together, you know, and like continue having this type of conversations and inviting people, even inviting legislatures, like, you know, like so they can come in, like, hear stories, and so that way they don't, you know, go home and dream about these hateful bills. And I mean, gosh, how much ignorant, you know, can you be? And like, I mean, you have to be motivated and inspired to be ignorant, stay ignorant, to really honestly come up with some of these bills that I've seen in the past, you know, like, so I mean, definitely this is a great start. That's why I'm so happy and proud when people are always willing to learn, you know, like, you know, as a Native American, you already have your own struggle, you know, and things that you gotta battle with and fight with, but it's very powerful for you to come here and say, hey, like, I also want to join this fight, and I also want to help, and I want to know which way to help. For me, like, literally when you asked that question, it gave me chills, you know, it that's how powerful it was. You know, and not only are you just focused, you know, because some people are like, well, you know, we're already struggling, so I'm not going to take up on any of your struggle. But the fact that you're like, hey, I'm also willing to help, that's very powerful. So thank you.
And I want to impress upon everyone what it is that I'm doing this year. I call it cause and effect, because horse sense has gone over the mountain. And people, once you show them the facts of any matter, and then they choose to continue, including the legislators, and then they continue to do that, when you can show them that it is going to affect their children on down the line. You know, I had one legislator that thought it was going to be a piece of cake. And I said, what qualifies you to be a part of the good old boys? What makes you think that they're going to take you to that spaceship in the sky? You're going to be down here with the rest of us, because, you know, that's above your pay grade. And he just looked at me. He said, well, I said, see, you already know. So get on the side of the road and let all the ignorance go by, and wait for that small VW bus that all of a sudden has the ability to hold, you know, like 29 clowns, and it's all in there. Cause and effect. And believe me, it blows people's minds. It really does, because horse sense is gone for a little bit. It's taken, we've been in COVID, we've been in this, Black folks have been dying, and look at the defense that was mounted. And you know that man lost his mother last year. Keith Ellison lost his mother to COVID. And he still was omni-focused. Cause and effect. We can do this. I know we can do this. And I don't know if it's cause and effect year. I haven't run the numerology or anything like that. Cause and effect. And I'm willing to work with anybody, and I'm willing to learn from everybody. So, yeah, I'm going to be quiet now, maybe.
I think I really find just the power in the simple things, like you know, Nadifa and Celia and Naima said, just this, you know, it's the step, and like those small things add up to make such a big difference. And a lot of times, like, we've been so taught that it's only the big things that make a difference, but it's those really small things, just those connections and those relationships, and like just staying so centered in our shared humanity. And we get so distanced from that because of, you know, the systemic issues that you know, our society here has gone through. And Nadif, at the very beginning, you know, when you were talking about your family's experience moving here and the expectation of what it would be like, you know, I feel like that's such an example of, like, so much of American society is the outside looks really great. Like we've got this great front. We can put it out there that everything's great. But like when you get down inside, like it's hollow and broken and just disconnected and truly like rotting in a lot of ways. And so, you know, when you have a wound that's infected and, you know, you've got to debride it, you've got to use the things that clean it out, and it hurts like hell. But, you know, being able to do that, so then we're able to have that healing begin, you know, is the conversations like this that, you know, sometimes it is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to face the fact that growing up in Chad and Cameroon, right, Nadifa? Okay, I wasn't sure if that was this, but you know, growing up there, like racism as we know it here wasn't a thing, because there was not that whiteness was not something that was so pervasive. And you know, it's something that's unique to the experience of you know, the foundation of this country, that it was based on racism. I just learned this week. I just learned this week that you know, our Declaration of Independence, and I have known that it's listed in there, and I apologize, but the merciless Indian savages, you know, is listed in there because the King of England had a proclamation he had released recognizing the sovereign nations of indigenous people past like the appellation. And so it was a direct response to that, like that genocidal violence. Like that's what the foundation is. And like we have these ideals that we're working towards, and it's really exciting to see that play out in conversations like this. And I think that these kinds of conversations are exactly what changes things, is that ability to be vulnerable in sharing. And I deeply, again, that deep gratitude for that. But also there's that vulnerability in like taking that step back and like listening and recognizing, you know, what our privilege is. And I'm really grateful for Nadifa shouting out to South Dakota Voices for justice and peace. It's an amazing local organization. I know they've just done amazing work here in our community. And yeah, I definitely, I am so hopeful and grateful about, you know, things to come. Feel free, questions, comments. I know when we would have these in person, we've said, you know, on our calls, we would have our meeting, and then we would have our meeting outside of the library when they would kick us out. So we totally have that flexibility here with Zoom. It's a little bit of a different format, but we're grateful for everyone's thoughts and perspectives.
People are so quiet tonight. Maybe do a popcorn.
Well, we won't force you to speak. So I'm just, again, really grateful for our speakers and for everyone else that's on the call. I look forward to really feel free. The South Dakotans Healing Racism, it's on Facebook still, South Dakotans Against Racism. You know, we definitely want to stay centered in a community grassroots kind of work. So, you know, if you've got something that you want to talk about, you know, we can create that space and have that conversation, and just keep in touch.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much for organizing this.
Thank you so much. This is time well spent.
Very
Hotep, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak.
Yes, masalama.
I'm gonna go eat. Bye.
Yeah. It was nice seeing you again, Naima. I think we met when